What is Falco? So at its simplest, it's an open source tool. You deploy it across your infrastructure, hosts, VMs, Kubernetes nodes, and it watches what your workloads are doing in real time. So whenever something weird happens, like a shell inside a container, write to / etc. from an odd process, a silent network connection, Falco catches it. You can think of it as a network of smart security cameras, right? You place sensors in key spots across your infrastructure, they capture events, then rules run against those events, and if something violates a rule, you get alerted. What kinds of events? Falco listens to Linux kernel syscalls, and it also supports other sources like Kubernetes audit logs and cloud events via plugins. What does that matter? Because in cloud-native environments, things change fast. Containers spin up and down, workloads move, your network is dynamic. And traditional scanners just don't cut it for runtime threats. Falco gives you visibility while things are running. And yes, Falco is part of the CNCF ecosystem, which means it's matured, supported, and widely adopted. Seriously, check out those logos. We're pretty smug about them. So let's break down how Falco actually works, and we'll keep it pretty high level. One of the things Falco does is data collection. So Falco will collect events primarily from the kernel syscalls via drivers, either eBPF probe or a kernel module, or via plugins from other systems. Then it does context enrichment. So the raw events we just collected are now tagged with metadata. For example, container ID, image name, Kubernetes namespace, host info, so you know exactly where the event happened. The next step is we take it to the rules engine. So Falco will apply a set of YAML-based rules to the enriched event stream. And rules define what bad behavior looks like.
I want to find the bad guy.
For example, a shell started in a container in prod, a network connection out of the cluster, write to / etc. by a non-root user, and finally, alerting and response. So when a rule matches an event, Falco emits an alert. You can forward it to Slack, your SEM tool, storage, you can trigger remediation, whatever you like. By the way, some architecture pointers. Falco supports modern eBPF probe, which is efficient and works across many kernels. Plugins extend Falco's capability beyond just syscalls into cloud, logs, and identity systems. So here's a quick demo in broad strokes. Let's say host starts an unusual process inside a container. Falco driver will capture the kernel syscall and pass it to the engine. The engine matches it to a rule, for example, shell inside container in prod namespace. This generates an alert. You see a message, a log is forwarded, maybe you trigger an automated quarantine, and that's runtime security in action. So why does all of this matter? Because the threat landscape has changed. Traditional scanning tools like vuln scanners, compliance checkers are necessary, but they're not sufficient. They work before or during deployment, but what about while your workloads are running? That's where runtime security tools like Falco shine. Here are some use cases where Falco can really help you. Let's say you have Kubernetes clusters, containers, maybe cloud workloads. You want to catch abnormal behavior like privilege escalation, secret exfiltration, or container escape in real time. Falco does that. Or maybe you need to align with frameworks like MITRE ATT&CK or NIST in cloud-native or containerized environments. Falco helps you detect TTPs and produce alerts that map to those frameworks. Or you're using hosts and VMs and containers, and you need a unified runtime security layer that's going to cover and go across all of them. Falco works across those layers. Let's bring it to life. Imagine a container in prod gets compromised. The attacker escalates privileges, writes to / etc., launches an outbound network connection to an external host. If you only relied on static tools, you might see this after the fact. Falco alerts you as it happens. Plus, because of the plugin ecosystem, Falco can monitor beyond just container internals. It will work across IAM and CloudTrail events, so you can bridge from containers to cloud services. Companies are using this kind of visibility to detect threats earlier, reduce dwell time, and strengthen their security posture. One of the things I really like about Falco is that it's not just a monolithic tool. It's part of a broader ecosystem. You have some of those key elements, right? Like plugins. If you want to monitor cloud or trail logs, identity systems, or custom event streams, Falco supports that. It also supports output forwarding. So your alerts can be sent to Slack, Teams, PagerDuty, SIMs, logs, storage, whatever you like. Falco also has rule management tools. So for large environments, you'll want to manage your rule lifecycle, right? You want to manage when you're installing, when you're updating, when you're disabling noisy rules. And in Falco, there are tools for that. And finally, community and maturity. Falco is a CNCF graduated project. It has many contributors, wide adoption.
So we're celebrating this year KubeCon the graduation of Falco.
And that matters for support, future-proofing, trust. So this isn't a tiny niche tool. It's enterprise-grade, open source, and built for scale. So when you're planning adoption, you'll want to think about how Falco fits into your stack. Where you deploy it, is it going to be hosts, VMs, Kubernetes, all three? How are you going to ingest alerts? Which rules will you enable or customize? How will you manage noise? Pro tip, start small. Maybe monitor one cluster or some key hosts, get comfortable, and then you can scale the rule set, integrate outputs, tune for noise, etc. Once you know your lay of the land, you can really start taking advantage of the power of this tool. Okay, ready to jump in? Here's a practical start guide and some best practices to keep in mind. Getting started with Falco, step 1, install it. You can deploy it on a host or in Kubernetes using Helm. Step 2, use the default rule set to begin with. Falco ships with a broad set of rules right out of the box. Step 3, configure output forwarding. So make sure you send alerts to a place where your team can see them, right? Like Slack, SEM, etc. Step 4, tune your rules. Identify which alerts are noise versus relevant, so disable or customize rules accordingly. Step 5, expand gradually. So now you can enable plugins, integrate cloud data, map alerts to incident workflows. Remember, don't treat Falco like just another log monitor. Falco is behavioral detection. So you need to think, what is normal in my environment? What behavior is unexpected? Prioritize alerting from critical environments, obviously like prod, but don't ignore dev or test environments. Threats often start there. Maintain rule lifecycle. So update your rules, disable outdated ones, manage false positives. This is key in uptime environments. Integrate investigation and response so that when Falco alerts, you have a workflow in place. And last but not least, monitor performance. While Falco is efficient, runtime monitoring still has overhead. Track metrics and ensure it's tuned. Of course, no tool is magical. There are things to watch out for when adopting Falco. One of those is noise or false positives. Because Falco watches a lot of things, you'll initially get alerts that may be irrelevant. Tuning is required. Know your environment. In order to write effective rules or to customize, you need to understand what normal looks like in your system. That way, you can also know what's abnormal. We also have some deployment complexity. So in large heterogeneous environments, you may have many kernel versions, many container runtimes, many nodes. Ensuring Falco's driver compatibility, eBPF versus kernel module, can take a minute. And finally, operational workflow. So an alert is only useful if someone acts on it. So you'll want to link Falco to your incident response workflows, and that may involve some culture or process changes rather than just tooling. But with the right approach, these aren't blockers. They're just part of adoption. So there you have it. Falco, your runtime security camera for containers, hosts, and cloud environments. In the world of cloud native, threats move fast. Runtime behavior matters, and Falco gives you that visibility. The good news is you can start right now. Install it, use the default rules, tune the system, and integrate it into your ops workflow. If you like this and want more of that, let us know in the comments what runtime behavior you would most like to detect in your environment, and we'll make sure to drop some content on it. Thanks for watching.